The odds of the United States going into a recession are actually on the rise this year. And this is putting a lot of fear and uncertainty into homeowners about their home's value or their family's transition to a new home or buyers buying a home in today's market. So today we're looking at two graphs that'll help show what a recession means to the housing market.
I keep it real, I keep it real, I keep it real, just keep it real.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Sam Hartman. As always, keeping it real estate here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I want to reiterate the point that fear and uncertainty is not bad. I understand that consumers don't understand necessarily everything that's happening in the economy. So it's easy to have a lot of fear and uncertainty, but you cannot let those feelings be the deciding factor for you and your family's needs. You need to find the context and the clarity you need to be confident in making your next life decision. And that's what we're here to do, is to bring you the context and the clarity in the real estate world so that hopefully you can make confident real estate decisions. So we're talking about the economy. We're talking about the odds of a recession on the rise in the United States. And really the question boils down to, what does a recession even mean for our housing market? And I've talked about this for years. We are suffering from major recency bias because of the great financial crisis, the housing crash of 2008. Every little blip or wiggle that has happened in the economy since then has had people throwing their hands up in the air saying, see, here we go again.
Oh shit, here we go again.
It's just like 2008. And I've done videos in the past, you can go back and watch them, showing exactly why our economy and our housing market is in no way like 2008 today. And you can go back and check those out, but that's not what we're talking about today. But I do want to highlight that recency bias of 2008 is a severe detriment to consumers in the market because it creates an unrealistic picture of what a recession means for housing. So let's look back. Let's look back at this graph of the last 6 recessions in the United States. And you can see that 4 out of the last 6 recessions, we've actually seen home prices appreciate in value. One of those drops was in 1991, was a minimal drop by 1.9%. And then obviously, like I said, that dreaded 2008, that housing crash, that was a recession fully caused and focused on the housing sector. And then it spread out from there. And that's why housing was so disproportionately affected in that recession, as opposed to these other historic recessions that we're looking at: 1980, 1981, 91, 2001, 2008, and 2020. So I want to always, when I talk about 2008, stop for a second and take this chance to give you this information for everyone in the Fort Wayne, Indiana market, because the national average price decline in 2008 was 20%. And in Fort Wayne, Indiana, because of the housing recession, the housing crash of 2008, we only saw our home prices drop by 5%. So a fraction of what the national average was. Our market is very conservative. Our swings of highs are not as high, and our swings to the low are not as low. And this is a good thing. So even in the worst of times, our market stayed pretty stable in the grand scheme of things. And that's a phenomenal thing. We're talking about home prices there. And I think that has kept a lot of people on the sidelines these last few years, because home prices have appreciated rapidly ever since COVID. And now we're starting to see home prices start to moderate. Last year, Fort Wayne appreciated 6.5%, which was actually above the national average of about 4.4%, I want to say it was. So we outperformed the national average. But in 2021, we saw 18% price appreciation, and the national average was over 20%. So we saw rampant price increases, and now we're starting to moderate. And that moderation has created this drastic change in feeling with consumers. The market's slowing down, the market's changing, but it's not changing for the worse, buyers today actually have more inventory of homes to consider. They have more time to make that consideration and that decision. And so I think it's a much healthier market today than it was in 2021 or 2022, where prices were really, really appreciating quickly. I don't think that was healthy or good for anybody but those homeowners. But that's just home prices. Let's look at another aspect of housing that people have been talking a lot about over the last 3 years. We're going on almost 3 years now of interest rates being up in the 7 to 8% range. And consumers keep talking about they're going to wait for interest rates to come down to buy a house, yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? When the economy is strong and the economy is expanding, interest rates don't come down, because when the economy expands, people tend to spend more money. And so the government has to keep interest rates high so that inflation doesn't get out of control. Well, guess what? Now that the economy is starting to recess and contract, and we might be going into a recession this year, historically speaking, we should see more interest rate reprieve. We should see lower interest rates. So historically, again, going back to the last 6 recessions, 1980 saw over 4% reduction. 1981 saw 5% reduction. So just in a 2-year span, interest rates dropped by 9.25% in the 80s. 91 saw a 2.25% reduction, 2001, 0.63%, and so on and so forth. So if the economy does continue to slip, whether it be tariffs, whether it be inflation, whatever the dynamics are that are affecting the economy, if the economy continues to weaken, if the job market softens, we will begin to see interest rates come lower. And so if you've been on the sidelines saying you're waiting for interest rates to get lower to buy a house, but now you're saying, ooh, I'm uncertain about this economy, it's still not a good time to buy, you can't have it both ways. It's one or the other. Take this information, digest it, think about it, and think about what you and your family needs as far as a housing decision. And I hope that this context and clarity can help you be confident making that next decision. So the bottom line, guys, is a recession does not mean a housing crash. A recession affects the economy, but across the board, historically speaking, housing remains resilient. So if I can help provide any additional context or clarity, I hope you'll reach out. And if you have any topics or questions that you want me to cover on my next video, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to get to them. Thanks for keeping it real estate with me today, guys.
I keep it real, just keep it real.